In today's episode, we're going to talk about hockey gloves. Welcome to the NITRO Does Hockey Podcast. I'm your host, Nitro. So this is a continuing portion of our gear series. One of the things that you're going to need is hockey gloves. And so I just thought I would talk a little bit about the gloves that I have, that I've used. I actually went to the hockey gear store and I went to Dick's Sporting Goods to kind of look at the gloves originally when I got started. And I ended up with these Bauer Vapor Bolt, the 2023 Vapor Bolt Intermediate. These are 12-inch gloves. At the time, they were $69.99. Who knows what the price is when you're watching this. But this is what I started with. And this was probably fine for learn to play and some like introductory scrimmages, but this is really the gloves that I started with. They fit nicely. They're, I don't know, they feel pretty light. I like having a little bit of extra space and room in the wrist. Some people like gloves tighter, some people like them looser. There's going to be some personal preference. These actually feel really tight compared to the gloves that I'm wearing now, but we're going to get to that in a second. But anyway, this is where I started with an intermediate glove. A couple things about this glove. I play against some really big men with hard shots, and I did take a puck to this hand. You've probably seen me talk and have a little bit of a janky finger. I did break this finger very far down here in these gloves. So I decided that I probably needed some gloves with shot blocker, a little more protection, because some of the people I was playing against had some really hard shots. I was playing on defense. I was not necessarily trying to block a shot with my hand, but you know, they could shoot hard. Sometimes I was in the way, sometimes they weren't accurate. Who knows? So I kind of retired these gloves. Sure, I could use these at home. If I'm practicing some stick handling, I want to use gloves. I've got them in case somebody wants to try hockey or is coming from out of town visiting, and we can cobble together some gear for them to get out on the ice with us. But these are not my everyday gloves anymore. The gloves that I use now are also Bauer. And it's funny because I actually don't know. They're the ultrasonic, maybe that's what that says. I don't actually know what they are. These are professional level gloves. They're much bigger. They're probably a size bigger than I'd like. These are 14s. I'm probably better at a 13. But this is what was available. This has a shot blocker in it, and so you can take a lot more of a beating with these. I still would not ever want to take a puck to where I did in either of these gloves. There's always going to be some sort of a seam or spot that doesn't have as much padding as some of the other areas. But this has a lot more padding on it than this one. This one, I knock on it, you don't really hear anything. You can hear that there's a lot more protection in this. And it's a bigger size, but it's just a beefier glove, as you can see. And I've been happy with this. Like I said, if I could have gotten it a size smaller, I would have. I make it work. It's more important for me to have the extra protection. And like I said, this is a pro level glove. I came across it from a coach that had coached pro level and happened to have these and was willing to part with them. And so I took advantage of that opportunity. So that's why I don't have a lot of information about exactly what they are other than a Bauer ultrasonic glove. Team stock from Seattle Kraken. Really nice. They've done a great job. They really protected this hand well. The healing of this hand is a whole different story, but that's okay. So I think it's pretty natural when you're starting something to acquire gear And you have to find that equilibrium between cost, am I going to stick with this? How much money do I want to invest in a sport that I've never played before? So you make some sacrifices. You maybe get some cheaper gloves. The Vapor Volt that I got originally, they're $70 gloves. The Bauer Ultrasonic, whatever they are that I moved up into, they're probably $200 gloves. There's a big difference in that. Maybe they're even more than that. I can't just find them on the internet to get an accurate price. So certainly at some point it makes sense, if you're going to stick with something, you are playing in a more competitive group, you're playing against more competitive people, that you might need to upgrade your gear at some point. And so I've slowly been upgrading some gear. We'll talk about some other upgrades that I've made, specifically in shin padding, shin guards. That'll be another episode. But I really just wanted to talk a little bit about the gloves. I don't think I realized how important gloves were until I took a shot to the hand, and then I realized my hands actually kind of take a beating between pucks and sticks and people just kind of like running into them and pinning them on things. I've taken a surprising number of pucks to the hand. I don't know that I realized how many until after I had hurt my hand, and then once you get back, you realize really quickly how many pucks to the hand you might actually take, or sticks, or just, elbows, people getting in trying to dig the puck out of the corner on the boards. So it's natural to need to upgrade things as you progress through a sport. That's why they have youth, junior, intermediate, senior level gear, is because that's the natural progression for youth. The difference is they're typically getting bigger and growing up through the process, whereas when you start as an adult, of course, I'm not growing. I'm probably shrinking at this point in my life, so I'm doing the opposite, but yet I'm going through the progression of advancing my gear, even though I'm not growing and possibly shrinking, but we're not going to dwell on that. So I hope that this was helpful, gave you some insight into the progression I've made in gear, the changes I've made, the changes in gloves from an intermediate to a professional or senior level glove, and hopefully that'll inform some of the gear decisions that you make as you progress in the sport as well. Thank you for spending your time with me. Until next time, I'm Nitro. Bye.